Hey, this is Monica here. I'm a visual artist from the Frisco area of Texas. This video is about how I wire my canvases. This video could be very helpful to people who are new, who are just entering this, fine art field, and you want to know how to wire your canvases behind, because this is a requirement. Almost all galleries will require you to wire your canvases correctly. There is a proper method. The measurements are important. The kind of tools you use are important. I've learned the hard way. I've hurt myself. I've used wrong tools. And so after trying out several methods that I had seen on the internet, and then I've picked the method that I feel works the best, and I've seen the way my paintings hang in the galleries to see if it's hanging correctly, and I think that this system works pretty good. So let's get down to it. So this is the back of the canvas, and this canvas measures 16 by 20 in size. Okay, so these are the materials we are going to use. You will need a screwdriver, you will need a scissor, you will need a plier. This is a T-ruler. I love using a T-ruler because it has an edge and it kind of hits straight on that edge there, and it's easy instead of using a standard ruler like this, which can move around. This kind of just sits in place and you can get a straight measurement easily. So this is a T-ruler, but you could always measure with a normal ruler too. Pencil and an eraser. Wire. This is the professional hanging wire. I use the one that's this super soft strand. It can take up to 11 kgs or 25 lbs. So that's pretty good actually. And this is very good on the hands. I've tried many wires before, and they usually cut my fingers if I'm not careful. And so you need to be careful about the wire when you're using it, because it can have sharp edges. And this wire has been the most finger friendly, honestly speaking. So this is the one I use. And then about the hooks that we're going to use for the wires, well, I have now shifted completely to what's known as a D hook, D ring, right? This is what I am using these days. I used to use these before, and these are eyes with a screw, and this one goes to the side, whereas the D-ring goes on the top of the wood panel like this. So this one hurts your fingers a lot more when you're trying to push it in, and you may at that point use this tool to hold it in place and then screw it in. But honestly, if you want less tools and less headache, I would go to a D-ring. Of course, if you're using a bigger and heavy canvas, I would ask you to use, a bigger D-ring and a bigger screw so that it's able to take the weight. All right. So these D-rings usually come along with these small screws, which screw in. See that? Right. So these are the basic tools we are going to be using. You also need, I think I told you already, a pencil and an eraser. So now we are going to go into the next step, which is measuring it out. So technically speaking, they say that you could run the wire at 1/3 the size of the length, or quarter of the size of the length, and that's where you would put the screw. So I have tried both, and honestly 1/3 to me feels very low, because it just tends to tilt a little bit more when I see it hanging on the gallery. So I have shifted to completely do all my canvases with quarter the measurement. It's at quarter from the top. So this is a 16, the small side is 16 and the long side is 20, and I'm going to have to measure on the long side because mine is a vertical. It is a vertical painting like this, right? It's not a landscape painting, it's a portrait angle painting. So for me, this length, or the top to bottom length, the taller length is what's important, and that's 20 inches here. So 1/4 of 20 inches will be what, 5, right? 5 into 4 is 20. So okay, so 1/4 of 20 would be 5. So you see, I put a nice long line here because that gives me enough freedom to be able to put my D-rings in with more ease without having to kind of aim it in exactly in a spot. So if you just put one dot here, then it's more difficult for you to find that dot and measure it exactly and make it fit on that dot. So just making sure that you have a line there, then you are able to aim it faster and better without much difficulty. So I'm putting the screw, and inside the eye of that I'm putting this in, the screw inside. Then I'm pinching it between my two fingers like this, taking my screwdriver, putting it in. I should have been wearing my specs. And gently pushing it in. Now the reason why I don't use a drill is that drills can be very harsh and can crack your wood, and you don't want to do that after spending so much of time painting, and then you don't want to end up damaging the frame. So it's better to just use a screwdriver and do it manually, because you can be gentler and you can gently increase the pressure without damaging the wood. I'm going to do the same thing here. Put it in. Make sure the line is running through the center of that hole there. Put the screw in. Hold it between my two fingers. Just watch your fingers. If you lose control over your screwdriver, you can hurt your fingers. You do get tools to hold the nail in place. I don't particularly use that because I'm used to doing this. You could probably get something like a pincher to hold the screw in place if you're not confident of holding the thing in place. And I give this a slight tilt upwards instead of keeping it just horizontally straight. I have this angle going like that because it's just easier for the wire, because the wire has to go in that direction, so it's just better that way. All right, and then the next step is the wiring process. Okay, so here's the wire. I tie it up on one side and measure whatever is remaining and what's needed, and then cut it. Rather than cutting it like this, there are people who just take this measurement and then a little extra and cut it. So you can do what you're comfortable with, and doing this neatly is something that I have not been able to do very well, but this is the technique I use. I kind of just loop it over once before I even make the knot, so that way the thing doesn't move. It's already stuck in place. The wire doesn't move. And then try to knot it. From my experience, if you try to knot it from very far away, it takes more effort to get it in place. So tie it close, put the knot in pretty close to the loop, so you have less work to do as you bring it in. So you do need to knot it once for sure, so that it doesn't move from its place. And then I just wrap it around once like this, right? And then you can decide if you feel like it's strong enough, you can just start wrapping it around. I think mine is very strong, so I'm just going to just wrap it around. Also, you need to also take into consideration what size of canvas you're using. When you're using a relatively light canvas, the chances are that these wires are strong enough and you don't really need to worry too much about it coming apart. I do use this to kind of pinch all the extra wire in place. So I've done the same thing on the other side now, just to save time, and I'm wrapping it. One thing that's worth looking at is to get this neatly. Initially, I could never do it right. You need to bring it really close to the previous loop you've done, push it down, and use both your fingers. So I'm using this finger to now push it underneath and bring it back to the other hand, and put it in. Use this finger, the index finger of the left hand, to push it in. That way you can kind of guide it and put it exactly where you want it, and your wire looks neat. So this has taken me a couple of tries. I used to be super messy with this whole process. All right, and you want to press all the wire, whatever's remaining of the wire, in properly where it was sticking out. Okay, and then it would be great to put some painter's tape on it, which I can't find. But yeah, that's another item that is good to add. Give me a minute. So a little bit of painter's tape. Now, why the painter's tape? The painter's tape will help protect anyone's fingers, anybody else who's handling your painting when they are trying to put it up on the wall. You don't want any of the sharp edges of the wire to cut their fingers. So to protect them, it's always better to put a little bit of tape on the place where your wire ends. I always do that because I don't want anyone getting hurt, so that it's clean. That's it. So you have your wire and it hangs from there on the wall. All right, and I hope this video helps you wire your canvases. This is pretty much the technique that all galleries expect for you to have the wiring in place for your canvases. All right, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.